The low hum of jazz drifts from a nearby car radio. The sun is setting, casting long shadows over the gas station. Imani Carter pulls into the lot, her sleek black sedan reflecting the golden hues of dusk. She exhales, exhausted from a long day in court, and steps out, heels clicking against the pavement. She moves with quiet confidence, unaware of the watchful eyes already sizing her up. Officer Daniel Riley sits in his patrol car, parked near the entrance. His gaze latches onto Imani, his eyes narrowing as he watches her exit the vehicle, a black woman in a luxury car. He doesn't know her, but he's already made his assessment. Riley muttering to himself, that's a nice ride." His fingers graze his radio. A routine call-in, or something else. His mind doesn't hesitate, it's automatic. He reaches for the door handle. Authority in motion, when power moves without cause. The rhythmic beeping of the gas pump fills the silence as Imani waits. She glances up, sensing movement. Riley strides toward her, boots striking the pavement with deliberate weight. A familiar tension settles in her chest. This isn't her first time dealing with this kind of presence. She keeps her hands visible, her stance neutral but firm. Imani, calm, measured. "Evening, officer." Riley, ignoring the greeting. "License and registration." No explanation. No cause, just a demand. Imani doesn't flinch, but her brow lifts. "Imani, excuse me." Riley, firmer. "I said, license and registration." The gas station quiets. A few customers steal glances. A teenager near the vending machines slowly lifts his phone camera lens, catching the scene. The demand for proof, a presumption of guilt. Imani crosses her arms, refusing to move just yet. "Imani-do, you have a reason for stopping me." Riley exhales sharply, as if dealing with a child who refuses to listen. "Riley, you fit the description of someone we're looking for." Imani, deadpan. "Oh? And what description would that be?" He falters just a second too long. Imani knows the game. There is no description. She reaches into her purse, pulling out her license and registration, making sure to do so slowly, deliberately. She hands them over, her fingers steady. A crowd begins to gather, the weight of watchful eyes. A soft murmur spreads. The cashier behind the counter watches closely, hands hovering near the phone. An older man leaning against a pickup truck shakes his head. The teenager recording takes a step closer, angling his phone for a clearer shot. Riley glances around, noticing the attention, but doubles down. Riley, flipping through her information. "This, your car?" The question is laced with something more than curiosity. Imani holds his gaze. "Imani, it's registered in my name, isn't it?" Riley doesn't respond immediately. Instead, he lets the pause stretch, as if waiting for her to stumble, to slip. But she doesn't. Das, a battle of wits, holding the line. "With words Imani, are you detaining me, officer?" Riley clenches his jaw, the power slipping from his grasp. Riley, gruffly, "Just running your plates." "Stay put." He turns, heading back to his car. Imani watches him go, exhaling slowly. Her hands tighten around her phone. She contemplates making a call, but she waits, knowing there's still more to come. The murmurs around her grow. The teenager is now openly recording. Bystander 1, softly. He's messing with her for no reason. Bystander 2. They always do. Imani glances toward her car. Through the window, Zora's wide eyes watch, small fingers gripping the seatbelt. Imani gives her daughter a slow nod, reassuring, but inside anger simmers. The sting of disrespect, a verbal strike meant to wound. Riley returns, tossing her license and registration toward her hands instead of placing them back properly. Riley, mocking, "You talk real smart, don't you?" Imani catches the documents with practiced ease, her expression unreadable. Imani, make a living off it. A smirk flickers across his lips, condescending, dismissive. "Riley, people like you never learn their place." The words cut the air like a blade. The gas station falls deathly silent. The weight of history presses down on the moment. A woman near the gas pump gasps softly. The teenager recording tightens his grip on his phone, disbelief flashing across his face. Imani stands, perfectly still. A lifetime of battles, of whispered warnings from her mother, of news stories ending in tragedy all lead to this one moment. She could fight, she could yell, she could unleash every ounce of righteous fury boiling in her blood. Instead, she does something more powerful. She refuses to shrink. Kimanti, steadily. "And what place is that, officer?" Riley hesitates. He wasn't expecting pushback, wasn't expecting her to meet his gaze without fear. Imani takes a slow step forward, her presence unwavering. "Imani, because from where I stand, my place is right here, existing, living, thriving, no thanks to men like you." A shift. The crowd seems to stand a little taller. The power is shifting, slipping from Riley's grip. He scoffs, shaking his head, but his jaw is tight. The weight of the recording of the eyes around him begins pressing in. Zora watches from the car, her little hands still balled into fists, but her mother's voice rings strong in her ears. A lesson, painful but powerful. The phone cameras are still rolling, the world is watching, and for the first time the badge on Riley's chest feels heavier than it should. Riley, firm, commanding. "Step away from the vehicle, ma'am." Imani. Steady, unflinching. "Is there a reason for this, officer?" "Really, Kurt, just step away." "Imani, I'm well within my rights to ask why I'm being stopped." "Really?" with forced patience. "Routine check. You fit a description." Imani, narrowing her eyes. "What description would that be?" A beat. Riley doesn't answer right away. He knows he doesn't have one. Imani keeps her voice even, but firm. "Imani won't be stepping away from my vehicle unless you have probable cause." The moment tightens. Riley stares at her, his authority now being tested. A flicker of irritation crosses his face. Riley. Mocking. "You sure talk real smart for someone from around here." The condescension in his voice lands like a slap. Imani doesn't react immediately, but something flickers in her eyes. She's heard this tone before, in classrooms, in boardrooms, in courtrooms. "Imani, and you sure assume a lot for someone who took an oath to serve and protect." A tense silence. A few bystanders are now watching closely. A man near the gas pumps takes out his phone, angling it toward them. Another follows. The weight of watchful eyes begins to press in. Riley notices, but he doesn't falter. Instead, he doubles down. Riley, holding out his hand, license and registration. Imani doesn't hesitate. She reaches into her purse, making slow, deliberate movements before handing him the documents. "Imani, everything is in order, officer." Riley barely looks at the documents. His suspicion lingers, his eyes scanning the car instead, as if the leather seats, the clean interior, the luxury brand don't add up. Riley, muttering, "Must be nice having connections." The implication is clear. Imani's success isn't because of intelligence, hard work, or sacrifice. It's because of a handout, an undeserved opportunity. She clenches her jaw, forcing herself to stay composed. "Imani, excuse me." Riley, shrugging, eyes still scanning the car. "I mean, not many people from your kind of neighborhood get a car like this on their own." A ripple goes through the small crowd that has gathered. A woman near the convenience store shakes her head. The teenager recording murmurs, "Wow," under his breath. Imani doesn't flinch, but something deeper stirs within her. A memory flickers to life. Her father, hands splayed against the hood of his old sedan, a cop rifling through his belongings. Her mother whispering, "Stay calm, stay respectful, come home safe." She swallows the weight of history pressing against her ribs, the anger, the exhaustion. She will not give him the reaction he wants. But then Riley shifts slightly. His hand moves, resting lightly on the top of his holstered gun. A subtle motion, a familiar one. Not a direct threat, but a reminder, a warning. Imani notices immediately. So does the crowd. A sharp inhale. The teenager recording angles his phone, making sure every detail is caught on camera. Imani, quietly but firm. "Is that necessary?" Riley doesn't move his hand. Riley, flatly, "Just making sure we understand each other." The threat lingers between them, but Imani refuses to let it settle. She takes a slow breath, steadying herself. This isn't just about her, it's about Zora watching from the car. It's about every young black girl who will one day stand in this same position. Every woman who ever has. "I money we do." Another beat. Riley scoffs, shaking his head as if this entire exchange is amusing to him, and then the final blow, delivered not with fists, but with words. Riley, chuckling. "People like you never learn their place." A crack in the air. The entire gas station falls silent. The phrase hangs there, thick with history, heavy with centuries of meaning. It is not just an insult. It is a reminder of Jim Crow, of back doors, of whites-only signs, of knees on necks. Imani's fingers curl slightly, but she doesn't look away. She meets his gaze head-on, her voice like iron. "Imani, and what place is that, officer?" Riley falters. He wasn't expecting a challenge. He wasn't expecting her to look at him with something stronger than defiance, something like pity, like recognition, like knowing exactly what kind of man he is and how small he has just become. A murmur spreads. The crowd shifts, energy rising. The cameras are still rolling, and Riley knows it. He glances around, suddenly aware of how many eyes are locked onto him. How many will see this? How many already have? He clears his throat, straightens his posture. "Riley, gruff. You can go." Imani exhales slowly, a measured breath. She reaches for her documents, taking them back with deliberate control. Without another word, she turns toward her car, head held high. Zora watches her mother slide into the driver's seat, her small hands still clenched into fists. She swallows, her voice small but certain. "Zora, did we win?" Imani looks at her daughter, her own hands tightening around the wheel. She forces a soft smile, one that doesn't quite reach her eyes. "Imani, not yet, baby, but we will." The engine hums to life. The crowd lingers, some still recording, some murmuring among themselves. Riley watches them drive away, his jaw tightening. He knows this moment isn't over. The world has seen, and the weight of that truth settles in his chest like a stone. Imani, calm, controlled. "I want your name and badge number." Riley, smirking, dismissive. "You got a problem, lady?" Imani, firm, unwavering. "I want your name and badge number." Now, a pause. The crowd leans in, the tension thick in the air. Riley's smirk falters, but only for a second. Riley, mocking. "Oh, we got a tough one here. Think she's got some pull." Imani doesn't flinch. Instead, she reaches into her bag, not with hesitation, but with purpose, a deliberate movement. She pulls out her phone and unlocks it with a swipe. "Imani, this is Imani Carter. I need legal counsel at my location immediately. I'm reporting an officer for misconduct." The words slice through the air like a blade. A murmur spreads through the crowd. The teenager recording gasps under his breath. The cameras close in. This is no longer a single confrontation. This is evidence. Riley laughs, shaking his head. "Oh, you think calling some fancy lawyer's gonna Imani?" Cutting him. "Off badge number. Name, say it for the camera." The power shift is unmistakable. Riley stiffens, the confidence in his posture shrinking. He doesn't respond immediately. The growing crowd waits, eyes locked on him. Social media is already buzzing. Notifications light up screens. Imani's voice sharpens. "Imani badge number." Riley exhales through his nose, jaw tight, before finally muttering it under his breath. "Riley 4278. Officer Daniel Riley." The crowd erupts into murmurs. The phones don't blink. The weight of accountability presses against him now. A patrol car pulls up, lights flashing. A second officer steps out, Officer Jameson. He takes in the scene with one glance, his gaze shifting between Imani, the cameras, and Riley's stiff shoulders. Jameson, even cautious. "Everything all right here?" Riley doesn't answer. Imani does. "Imani, this officer detained me without cause, harassed me. When I refused to be intimidated, he told me to learn my place." A ripple of reactions. Jameson's gaze hardens. He knows the weight of those words and the damage they can do. He steps toward Riley, voice low but firm. "Jameson, we need to talk." Riley barely reacts, but his fingers twitch. He is already feeling the shift, the loss of control. The weight of the crowd's judgment is crushing. Jameson leans in, whispering something only Riley can hear. Whatever it is, it lands heavy. Riley's face pales, his bravado drains. He swallows hard, eyes darting toward Imani with something different now. Not power, not arrogance. Uncertainty. Jameson, lowered voice. Do you have any idea who she is? Recognition dawns too late. Riley's chest rises with a shaky inhale. He knows now this is not a woman to mess with. She is respected, connected, known. The mayor's office knows her name. The legal community stands with her. His grip on his authority weakens. The Biao badge he once hid behind now feels like a weight dragging him under. Imani, unshaken. Am I free to go, officer? Or would you like me to take this further? Silence. The crowd collectively holds its breath. Riley's throat works, his pride battling his self-preservation. Cameras still roll. The choice is his, but there is no victory left to claim. He mutters something, low, barely audible, then a step back, a signal of retreat. The moment shifts. The crowd, once held captive by fear, now moves with a different energy. Power has been reclaimed. Imani exhales, not in relief but in satisfaction, not because she won, but because she fought. And she is still standing. She turns, walking back to her car. The people part for her. Zora watches from the back seat, her eyes wide, filled with something deeper than admiration, understanding. Zora, quiet, unsure. Did we win? Imani grips the steering wheel, gaze steady ahead. Her voice is soft, but certain. Imani, not yet. But we will. The engine hums to life. The cameras are still rolling, the world still watching, but the real change has already begun. Riley, muttering. Damn media vultures. He scrolls through his phone, his face tightening. Every headline, every notification, every news alert carries his name. His own face stares back at him from shaky cell phone footage plastered across the internet. Headlines flash. White officer tells black woman to learn her place, gets publicly humiliated instead. Officer under fire after video of racial. Profiling goes viral. Who is Imani Carter? Civil rights attorney takes on police misconduct. Riley's hands clench around the phone. The department's official statement pops up on the screen. Generic, cold, detached. We take all allegations seriously and have placed Officer Riley under review. Riley, gritted teeth. They're throwing me under the damn bus. He looks around. His dimly lit apartment, half-empty beer bottles on the table, the walls closing in. The authority he once wielded now feels like dead weight pressing on his chest. Detective Marshall, we've got a problem. The chief of police barely glances up from his desk, hands folded. The tension in the room is thick. Reports are scattered. Across the desk, Riley's name circled in red. Chief Walters, exhaling. No, he's got a problem. We just have to clean it up. Detective Marshall. This isn't going away. The footage is everywhere. And now we've got reporters digging through his past. He slides a folder across the table. The chief flips it open. A list of complaints filed and ignored, a pattern, a problem that should have been addressed long ago, but wasn't. Chief Walters, quietly. Damn it. The room stays silent. The truth. Can't be buried this time. Community leader into the mic. Enough is enough. The crowd roars in agreement. The steps of City Hall are flooded with people. Activists, lawyers, everyday citizens who have had enough. Banners wave in the air. Signs demanding justice, change, reform. Community leader. This isn't just about one officer. This is about a system that allows this to happen over and over again. Crowdier's community leader. We will not be silent. The chant grows. The energy is electric. Social media feeds light up with live coverage. The city is awake. The movement has begun. Imani sits in her living room, the weight of the last 24 hours pressing into her. She watches Zora on the floor, crayons in hand, drawing with the quiet focus only a child can have. A sharp inhale. A memory flickers. Riley's words, the way his hand rested on his weapon, the way history nearly repeated itself. Imani, softly, almost to herself. It could have been different. Zora looks up, blinking. Zora, What, Mama? Imani clears her throat. Nothing, baby. Keep drawing. But the thought lingers. One wrong move, one moment of anger instead of composure, one decision away from being another headline, another statistic. She exhales, forcing the tension from her shoulders. Her mother's voice echoes in her head. We fight, but we fight smart. The laptop screen glows in the dim room. Imani's fingers fly across the keyboard. Legal documents, drafts of policy reform, emails to city officials, civil rights organizations, allies. This wasn't just a viral moment. This was a movement, and she was going to make sure it didn't fade away. A notification pops up, an email from a senator's office. Subject line, let's talk. She leans back, a slow smile forming. The system wasn't going to change itself, but she was more than ready to force its hand. Zora, sleepy, curling up beside her. Did we win? Imani pauses, looking down at her, daughter's expectant face, hopeful, trusting. She brushes a hand over Zora's curls and kisses her forehead. Imani, not yet, baby. But we will. The city wakes to something different. A shift. The conversation has changed. Imani Carter's name is in the headlines, but not as a victim, as a force. She steps outside, feeling the weight of it all. The fight ahead, the obstacles. Waiting, but she straightens her shoulders. She has never backed down before, and she won't now. This was only the beginning.